Here's what opened my eyes to inactivity. What happened to my body as a college athlete, training 3 hours a day, very athletic, all of a sudden things started aging quickly.
Today's guest is Sean Foy, world-renowned exercise physiologist and behavioural coach. He keeps writing books and designing programs to make us move just a wee bit more. I asked him why.
There's nothing better to slow down the aging process than moving. Nothing better. So if we want to look and feel younger, physical activity and exercise is by far the best intervention. But from an emotional perspective, and I think this is of interest for many of our clients that we work with in organizations, physical motion dramatically impacts our emotion. We just feel better. We're happier. Life is better. We know from studies that we see decrease in depression, anxiety, stress. So it's difficult to nail it down to one benefit, but I would say look and feel younger and also experience greater happiness and joy in life.
How many chronic diseases are related to physical activity?
Well over 40 chronic diseases can be affected by regular physical activity and exercise. And I think that's something that for me, for years, talking about the benefits of exercise, that's what I have been doing. And it's funny now because I call it the blah, 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 because everybody knows it's good for us, but we're not doing it. In fact, as a country, we've gone backwards. 7 out of 10 of us are not performing enough physical activity and exercise to benefit our health. So we began to experiment with what can we do throughout our day? Just little movements, even a minute of movement can have significant impact. That was foreign to me as an exercise physiologist. I always thought, it has to be 30 minutes, 20 to 60 minutes, stay in your target heart rate zone. We're realizing now, though, just a little bit of movement. Any movement is better than no movement. So we're really trying to help people just move.
Our bar is coming down in a way?
Way down. We need to because, and don't get me wrong, the benefits of 3 to 5 days a week of regular aerobic activity, stay in your target heart rate zone, regular resistance training, stretching, all that's really good information and very beneficial. But what I know I was doing wrong as a health professional, I was starting there instead of starting at the smallest point. What can I do today? If I were to just, in fact, I literally found this. I was writing a lot. I was writing books, and I noticed being a personal trainer coming to sitting all day long. The average person sits anywhere from 7.7 to really 15 hours a day. So a significant part of our day is sitting. But if I were to stand up and sit down just 10 times, and I did that once an hour throughout my day, at the end of the day, I would complete 80 squats. That's significant. That's something that we can do. So we're really trying to help people start with small movements. Ideally, sit for 60, move for 3 minutes would be ideal, but even just 1 minute can make a profound impact on our health.
Only possible with that whole food, plant-based diet. But the physical activity was definitely part of the package. I asked today's guest, exercise expert Sean Foy, what inactivity actually costs us.
I realized this as an athlete. I realized that when I was playing college football at the age of 19 years old, I had a knee injury that was severe enough to have surgery. So I had to wear a cast from the top of my hip all the way down to my ankle. I don't know if you've ever had that type of an injury. It's terrible. The worst part is obviously not moving the limb, but next to that is when you have an itch because you can't scratch with the cast on. So I literally would take a hanger or a stick to scratch my leg. What I discovered was absolutely amazing because 2 weeks after not moving this limb, I could take my hand and go all the way down to my thigh and scratch my thigh. 4 weeks, I could go all the way past my knee. In 8 weeks, cast is almost off, I could literally go down to my ankle. And here's what opened my eyes to inactivity. What happened to my body as a college athlete, training 3 hours a day, very athletic, all of a sudden things started aging quickly.
And all that muscle just
muscle atrophy,
away, right?
Metabolic changes, weight gain, but then on the emotional side, depression, anxiety, stress levels were extremely high, motivational changes, behavioral changes, just finding my way. But what was fascinating was if I were to look at my leg functionally, physiologically, I would say that my leg aged 80 years. Because my grandmother at the time was 94 years old, her legs were functionally much stronger than mine. I could not bend my leg. I could not really walk without a limp. It literally shrunk down to almost nothing in 8 weeks. It made me realize the impact of inactivity, and that's a graphic way of thinking about it, but I think it helps us to know every day that we're sitting, this impact is occurring in our bodies, in our health. Metabolic changes. We know that University of Missouri did a study on sitting. We know if we sit for long periods of time, it shuts off an enzyme called lipoprotein lipase that really helps us burn fat. So the longer we're sitting for periods, we're literally shutting off the enzymes that are helping us metabolize and utilize fat. There are so many things that are happening physiologically. In the American Cancer Society, they discovered that literally if you exercise, but you sit most of your day, the benefits of exercise are negated. So we have to find ways of moving throughout our day. I like to tell people, 100 years ago, we would not really talk about exercise.
No.
Because 100 years
We
ago,
didn't
our
need
entire
to.
day was exercise.
Right.
So the game has changed.
Yes, and
Really.
and your new book is Fitness That Works, packing it in between 9 and 5, and I
Right,
love that
right.
concept. And that's what you've called your new book, Fitness That Works, and how to incorporate that exercise between 9 and 5.
I really actually discovered, we wrote a book called The Burst Workout, and I realized that moving throughout the day is critical. So little bursts of activity throughout the day are really important. For myself personally, I noticed sitting way too long, and I literally stood up, sat down, thought, if I just did 10 of these every hour, that's 80 squats at the end of the day. That is significant from a physiological perspective, and also I felt better. And then also standing. We know that there are benefits to standing versus sitting, but here's the problem with standing. If we're standing for long periods of time without moving, our blood is pooling.
Yes,
and we begin to see effects and energy changes as well.
Right.
So really the key is movement. We need to give folks little movements that they can do throughout their day.
Right, but though if you have a standing desk, and I have one, is that if I'm just reading something and I don't need to be typing, I'll do squats while
for
I'm
you.
doing. Because that's just a time when only my eyes need to be still. The rest of me doesn't. And so
I love that.
I can squat, I can do some jumping jacks.
Absolutely.
Just stepping.
Absolutely.
And so I love my standing desk. Though if I'm sitting, I have pedals under my desk, so I
Love
can
it.
pedal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So there are
absolutely.
so many things around us now, aren't there?
And I think knowing that's doable, and I blame our profession, I blame myself actually, as a health professional, as an exercise scientist and exercise physiologist, we were telling people really the blah, 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 what I call the
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And
Yes.
that is, I think we made it unrealistic for individuals to think, I've got to go to the gym, I have to spend 30 to 60 minutes to have any benefit. It's just not true. I always tell people, the best exercise, the number one exercise to improve your health, improve your fitness, slow the aging process, is the one you will do.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't
Yes.
have to be a specific activity, but it's activity that you typically enjoy, and it's something that you can sustain for long periods of time. And when I mean by long periods of time, I mean weeks and months and years.
Yes.
Something that's a part of our lives.
Although I like your book, the 10-minute total body workout. I love this book. I've
Thank
given it
you.
to so many people.
Thank you.
Because even if you don't like exercise, you think, well, I can do it for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because when we wrote the book, the idea was creating a fitness formula that encompassed all aspects of fitness: cardiovascular exercise, resistance training, core strengthening, and deep breathing and stretching. So all elements in a 10-minute workout. Because you probably have heard of, the 6-minute abs or 8-minute abs, and that's great. It's beneficial,
Sure.
but it's just focusing on one aspect of our fitness, right?
Right. And we can get so familiar with that, we don't want to think outside that box.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so to your point, really, what we began to see, we began to test individuals with this 10-minute routine. We were blown away by how many people began to change other behaviors without us even saying anything. Stress
Right.
levels changed. They started eating better without any guidance from us. We began to see weight changes. We know that nutrition is critical when it comes to weight management, weight loss. Without any guidance from us, but they just began to feel better, which is critical. So we knew we were onto something by shrinking the duration and making something that's doable. And thus, the idea of movements throughout the day became the next step.